It's been 30 years since the death of a superstar, and now the legacy of Selena Quintanilla still lives on. Good evening, and welcome to Give Me a Break. I'm John the Carmody. It was 30 years ago this year that Selena Quintanilla, the queen of Latino music, or Mexican music, has been killed by Yolanda Saldivar. Most of this broadcast is going to be dedicated by looking at the inside story behind the murders. And a bit later on, we're going to revisit that 1995 interview with the woman that killed Selena. We'll also take another look at the evidence that was put into place at the time of the murders from the bloody shoes. Now, Yolanda Saldivar says it was all an accident. But other people say it was not an accident. But the legacy still lives on. Tonight you're going to meet this man. He says he wants to continue that legacy even though Selena's dead. Even though Selena's dead, he wants to carry on that legacy of playing Selena's music. And before she died, she had an English album. We'll talk about that a bit later. Take a look.
It's Selena, recordando Selena right here on the Lopez Broadcasting Network.
Ernest Lopez, a DJ at 104.9, remembers Selena like family. The station was one of the first Tejano stations in Corpus Christi, and Selena was a regular visitor. For Lopez, her loss feels personal, not just as a fan, but as someone who witnessed her rise and shared in her success.
If you had the privilege to meet Selena and knowing her in a personal level, you know, it's like losing another family member. That pain will never go away.
On the day marking the 30th anniversary of Selena's death, Lopez honored her memory by simulcasting 24 hours of Selena's music across all three of the station's channels. He says it's a way to keep her spirit alive and remember the woman she was before her life was tragically cut short.
You know, when certain people can walk in a room and they don't have to say anything, and people just like gravitate towards them, that was her.
Dave Johnson is a former anchor at KZTV. He interviewed Selena several times.
We were watching everybody's newscast. We didn't have a live unit. We were freaking out.
At the time, Johnson was acting as news director for a day, expecting the Quiet Friday.
Then a drastic mistake.
30 years later, he's still moved when talking about Selena's father announcing his daughter's death from the hospital.
He broke down. And I literally broke down watching him break down. That guy's got a heart. People. And that got me.
I must pass by the Selena Memorial at least once a week, and I'm always struck by how many people are here, how many people are still so emotionally connected to this story. And it's really no wonder. She was a talented, charismatic young woman who was going places. So it makes sense that her death, her murder, created such a sense of loss for the community, the music industry, and even her family. But when you talk about Selena, you have to talk about another aspect of this story, and that's one of justice.
Checks written by Yolanda Saldivar to Yolanda Saldivar.
Johnson still holds on to what he calls painful evidence of betrayal. Canceled checks Saldivar wrote to herself, stealing money from Selena's fans.
Now, Yolanda Saldivar was denied parole. But there are people, but she said to Deborah Roberts, she said on 2020, she still insisted to say that the shooting was an accident. Her conscience is clear. But look at all the evidence that's being put into play. You know, the money stealing, the gun. If it was an accident, maybe Selena would have been dead. I mean, if Yolanda had killed herself with that gun, saying don't close the door, she would have been dead and Selena would still be alive to this day. And the checks, we would have never known. But had the bullet missed her, both would still be alive and she would be put into jail for fraud. That's exactly what would happen. But no, if you want to create a time machine going back to March 31st of 1995, you would prevent the accident from happening. And if you prevented the accident from happening, you would not only save Selena, but you would still save the legacy and the tradition still going on. Or you would have stopped Saldiva as a local hero and tried to understand that, hey, I got to face consequences for my actions here. And that's exactly right. The legacy still goes on to this day. And as we said,
serious allegations against City Auditor George Holland sparked an...
As we said, and as I said before, her parole was denied because of what happened. You know, the murder, and people insist no. And by that time, many people shared the shit on Facebook and on social media. You know, yay, that bitch got what she deserves. That bitch does not deserve parole. Now, like I said, but the legacy still goes on, like I said. Still ahead, Yolanda Savila's first interview with Deborah Roberts after the accident, after the shooting. Was it an accident? Did she really kill Selena? Did she really steal money from the fan club? She tells her side of the story. Then Chris Pettis tells Victoria Corderi all about what happened along with her parents. And later on, the inside story behind the evidence. You know, from the blood in the shoes to the blood on the wall. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Throughout the rest of the season, we've been focusing on the scandals that are happening in Baltimore City, Maryland. The state of Maryland is spending a lot of money on our tax dollars, and Baltimore County is creating all these scandals, from ghost students to even one student who was put on probation for a year but then taken off probation because of sexual assault, because schools weren't notified. Now it's under attack because of all the spending that's been happening. We're talking a 48% surge in Maryland's public education funding. But the SAT scores have dropped. When test scores drop, because the extra money should not be, the extra money needs to be attached to the child. You get them, the test money in the child, they can go to a different school to escape that bureaucracy. What there needs to be is free choice. A choice. I mean, Texas is already doing the same thing for vouchers. The state of Maryland needs to be doing the same thing. Texas won't even argue. But Maryland wouldn't even be like, do the same thing what Texas did. They'll argue about it and they'll simply say, we don't care. We don't want vouchers. Because politicians won't even try, like not trying like a little piece of food. A new piece of not even trying a new piece of food. It's like, nyeh. We don't want to try it. But as we're about to show you from the story, it's about you spend over $10,000 per child in adjusted for inflation, more money, no results. Here's Chris Papps.
The state of Maryland spends a lot of money on public schools. In 2017, 8 years ago, Annapolis spent $7.7 billion tax dollars on K-12 education. By 2024, that number had spiked to $11.4 billion, a 48% increase. But as public school funding has surged, a Project Baltimore investigation found one key student academic metric has plummeted.
Maryland's falling further and further behind.
Corey DeAngelis is an educational advocate who promotes school choice and parental rights.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me all that much that the outcomes aren't getting any better with substantial increases in funding.
In Maryland, every year, tens of thousands of high school students take the SAT, a college entrance exam that measures reading, writing, and math skills. And in our state, student scores are getting worse. In 2017, Maryland's average SAT score was 1063, slightly above the national average of 1060. By 2022, the scores had increased to 1072. But then, look at what happened in 2023. The scores began falling. By 2024, Maryland's average SAT score was down to 1,000, which is now below the national average of 1024. If we look at the scores in the Baltimore region, we can see that every school system's average SAT scores have fallen compared to 2017, except Howard County, which is up 50 points. Anne Arundel County's average SAT score is down more than 100 points. Baltimore County is down 59 points. Baltimore City's average SAT score is now down to 867, by far the lowest in our region.
We need competition. We need families to be in the driver's seat.
DeAngela says the solution to improve student outcomes in Maryland is not to increase funding. Rather, he believes, the answer is to empower families to choose how the money is spent instead of school bureaucrats.
Then families should be able to take that money that's meant for their kids to that school that's doing a better job. And that would provide an incentive for the public schools to up their game too.
Project Baltimore emailed the Maryland State Department of Education asking, what is the state doing to increase SAT scores? And how can taxpayers be assured that future increases in funding will result in improved student outcomes? MSDE responded, Maryland SAT scores are consistent with larger national trends. However, our proposed academic excellence program will help to increase student achievement through effective instructional coaching for teachers statewide and prioritizing schools with low or declining academic performance.
This is another story about inequality that's baked into the public school system in America, particularly in places like Baltimore and the rest of Maryland, where some families have more access to educational opportunities than others. If we had the money follow the child, then more families would be able to access better education, which would be an equalizer.
Currently, the state legislature in Texas is debating a school choice bill that would offer students who participate in the program a $10,000 voucher they can then use for many educational options, such as private school, homeschooling, or specialized education. The governor of Texas said he will sign the bill if it's passed. I'm Chris Pass, and this is Project Baltimore.
And that's what we need. We need school choice. If we don't have that money attached to the child, then we want to skip the bureaucracy. It's like, nope, we're going to stick to what the government gives you because we're the parents and we want what's best for you. It's not about what the child, this is not about what's best for the child, it's about what's best for the parents. That's what it is. And if you think I'm quoting George Cooper from Young Sheldon, where he found out about the letter, you're damn straight I am. It's not about what's best for the child, it's about what's best for the parents. Now look, y'all gonna be commenting on here saying, it's the parents' choice, not the child's. It's what the child wants. The child wants the money attached to them, then that's his choice. It should be up to the parents. Now look, like I said, y'all gonna be coming here saying, look, this, and that. There is no this and that. You're the parents. And you want what's best for your child. Let your child make that decision instead of making that decision for your child. Your child has a voice. Let him or her start using that voice to say, I want that money, I want choice, I want to go to a better school. I don't want to be stuck in that school because I'm being bullied, I'm being picked on. And then be done with it. That's setting a better example for other states that don't have school choice. And what happens when we don't have school choice? There's no competition. Competition is good. It's why we have better technology. Would you go back to a restaurant to serve you a bad meal? Or a barber that gave you like a little bad haircut? It's competition that makes everything better. Now what about the other states of their SAT scores? How are they doing? Next up, a look at SAT scores throughout every state and city. Here's another point that I should have pointed out before we cut to break. Charter schools are better because they spend less money than public schools. Over less than $1,000 per child, because public schools, they spend over $10,000. But look at SAT scores. Look at the average SAT scores. If you look at by state, the state of Maryland, 70%, like what Chris talked about. We're at 1008. Now let's go to Texas. The state of Texas, they're lower, 978. So it does tell you that they need school choice instead of not doing better. But what about by school? So therefore, you got to look at your scores. But we don't know how Flower Bluff did because, I mean, look at the app. I mean, oh, great, there it is. I mean, just look at, we got to look at the Department of Education. They'll just look at every school by state. But the thing is, if the money's attached to the child, they can escape the pure, they can escape from what's going on and then find a different school. Without school choice, it's like we're giving you, everyone's stuck with what they want. They don't want to go to a different school. They want to go to that school. Charter schools are better than public schools. And if you try to criticize teachers unions, they'll come straight up to your face saying, "Hey, don't you dare! We will not take criticism quietly. We'll march down your fucking doorstep, and we'll make you teach for 1 week." I am not saying that. Look, I'm not saying you don't have to go to charter schools, but what I am saying here is this: we don't need this overspending bullshit. You know. We spend on more bullshit. I mean, we spend more money on, like, it's like we spend more money on CDs for more record companies, for more artists. What we don't need is paying more taxes to increase funding. If we increase more funding, that means we're going to pay a lot more taxes, and property taxes are going to go higher. What can we do? Can we spend less? Yes, we can. Can we make some cuts? Yes, we can. If we make some drastic cuts in the funding, then maybe we can set better examples in other school districts. Look, it may upset the apple cart, but if you try to suggest, like, oh, let's have an athletic program, they'll tell you, that's a great idea, but we're going to cut that off because we don't want to keep on spending. We want to save our money. But years ago, when Kansas City spent a lot more money, like on, car, or like, indoor swimming pools, indoor tracks, whatever, you know what happened? The scores got lower. School spending has tripled throughout all these years. Scores have been flat. You get much more money, but you don't get no improvement. It's awful. That's why charter schools are better than public schools. It's competition. If you give kids choices, you're forcing schools to do better. It's like, okay, this child left us. We've got to start doing better. And that's exactly what's happening. No one's doing any better because no one gives a flying fuck. And believe me, I got a good education from Flower Bluff. I'm not having them latch on to me $10,000 saying, I want to go to CCISD. But, if I went back to CCISD and they didn't have school choice, that $10,000 latch would not be on me. But if school choice did happen, it's like, I don't want to go to school. Okay, here's what we'll do. We're going to attach $10,000 on you. And you can go whatever school you want to go. I'm going to go to Flower Bluff. Okay. We'll give that $10,000 to Flower Bluff, and we'll make you go there. So if you want to find the best public school, you can probably maneuver there. But former President Obama had sent his children to private school. The tuition is over $30,000 a year. But looking at what some people have commented on, I had a friend who was stationed at Fort Meade, and his wife kept bothering him to buy a house near Frederick. They ended up buying in Pennsylvania. Whenever I talk to him, I always ask him about that, and he says the best decision ever was not to buy anything in Maryland. It's about what you teach and how you teach, not money. People seem to be getting robbed. Money is not going to solve problems. Where's the money going to? It's the bureaucracy. But in the state of New York, I mean, it's like the dance at the limit. Like, you gotta look at the whole list of steps on how to not fire an incompetent teacher. And so the battle still goes on whether school choice to happen here in Texas or the state of Maryland. Examples need to be set instead of teachers like saying, look at this going, over my dead body, we're not doing this. Quick, get the papers. Let's write the letter to the PT. Let's write the letter. And you just type all crazy and all. Here. I want you to take this home to your parents. 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 Contact your legislator. Here, take this. Contact the legislator. Here, take this to your mom and dad. Have them sign it. We don't want to spend state money on plans that are unproven. We don't want to spend any state money. We're good the way we are. Well, apparently not. Scandals have been happening. The sleeping patches in Texas. The child who was accused of rape, put on probation for a year but allowed to be back in school. It's the victims. I think school choice needs to be put on. And the state of Maryland needs to start doing better when it comes to your child's education. Maryland, get school choice. And I'm telling you now. When we return, the inside story about Selena Quintanilla, from the evidence to the checks to the clothing line, and even the day of the murder. Her first interview back in 1995. And if we don't do it today, we'll do it on Tuesday. I'll give him a break Tuesday, so please stay with us. Earlier in tonight's broadcast, we told you about what had happened. We told you about the legacy of what happened with Selena Quintanilla. She was murdered by Yolanda Saldívar. But now, we're going to give you the inside story of what happened. It may take today, and it may take tomorrow to do this. So fasten your seatbelts. This is the inside story 30 years later. Here's Victoria Cordero with our inside story.
In Corpus Christi, thousands of fans flooded the street where their idol lived, and the motel where she died. They scrawled messages, left gifts, held vigils, trying to make sense of the senseless. All of this for a young woman you may not have heard of, but who was at the center of a sensational story of obsession, greed, and manipulation. At 23, Selena was a one-name wonder, a plucky Tex-Mex singing sensation with $1 million record deal, endorsements, a Grammy, even her own line of clothing. And it seems now a haunting take on her future.
I just hope still to be alive, hopefully singing still, and maybe later on, 10 years down the road, I hope to have a family by then.
No one could have anticipated what really awaited Selena Quintanilla down the road. Until last week, she had it all and was going for even more. She was on the verge of realizing her crossover dream, recording her first album in English. Until last week.
911, what is your location? Days Inn Motel, it's 901 Navigation Boulevard. What's fine, ma'am? We have a woman ran in the lobby, said she's been shot. She's laying on the floor and there's blood.
Selena was shot in the back. Before dying, the young star named her killer. Police say it was her biggest fan.
Female entertainer, female vocalist, Selena Quintanilla!
Selena always seemed destined for success, not murder in a motel parking lot. Even as a little girl, she had a big voice. Selena's father, an ex-musician, freely admits he was fulfilling his own fantasies through his daughter.
I saw a way to get back into the music world through my daughter. Maybe I made a wrong decision, because look what it has led up to.
There were many lean years, but by the mid-'80s, Selena was starting to make it big in the Hispanic market.
I don't think anybody could keep their eyes on anything else. She was just so... She didn't even need a spotlight, she'd be up there.
Selena's husband, Chris Perez.
What were her dreams?
The English album and her clothing line. She lived for drawing her clothing and anything that had to do with clothing.
It was that breakneck schedule of performing and designing clothes that eventually brought Selena together with this woman, Yolanda Saldivar. She was a former nurse who became president of the first Selena fan club in 1991. 8 months ago, she was hired to help run Selena's boutique.
We never had really checked into anything other than that she was the fan club member, and she looked like a nice person.
She was manipulative. She was mean. She was evil.
Martin Gomez helped Selena design her clothing line and worked alongside Yolanda Saldivar.
She was trying to put a barrier between Selena and I. And Selena and anybody, and it just got really bad towards the end.
What was your sense of the hold that Yolanda seemed to have over Selena?
Selena trusted her. She was trusting. She was caring. She was very naive. And Yolanda jumped on that.
Selena was Yolanda's life.
She had no other life.
She was an obsessed fan.
When did that hit you?
I knew that for some time. But I didn't really worry too much about it.
But you didn't think she was dangerous?
No, not to that point.
For 8 months, Yolanda was able to live the life of a celebrity through Selena. She had control of the purse strings for the boutique and the fan club. She lavished all of her attention on Selena, even gave her this ring as a gift. But problems began to surface at the boutique.
So bills weren't being paid?
Yeah, the bills weren't being paid, and I tell her, what's going on? She'd say, I sent that check.
At the same time, Selena's father says other financial irregularities began cropping up. He says he began to receive complaints from people who had paid to become members of the fan club, but who'd received nothing for their money. He also says he discovered a paper trail of forged checks and unpaid bills, all of it leading back to Yolanda Saldivar.
Me and my other daughter and Selena had a meeting with her and showed her what we had.
And what happened at that meeting?
She couldn't answer anything. She just, her answers were ridiculous.
Selena's family says Yolanda disappeared to Mexico a month ago, taking with her financial records from the boutique.
There was a time when everybody trusted her, and anyway, for her to work her way in and then start being pushed out, I don't think, like I said, I don't think she could handle it.
Yolanda resurfaced 2 weeks ago at this motel. She called Selena to tell her she had the missing financial records. And the family says she concocted a bizarre story about having been raped. The next day, Selena came here to take Yolanda to a local hospital to get checked out. It was a fateful meeting. Family and police sources told Dateline that on the morning of the murder, Selena drove Yolanda to this hospital, where during an examination she admitted she had not been raped. Back at the motel, Selena removed the ring Yolanda had given her and apparently severed all ties. This motel maid says she saw what happened after that.
I turned around, I saw Yolanda and Selena coming out from 158, and Selena was coming out of the room yelling, "Help, help," and that's when Yolanda, shot her in the back. Yolanda announced, "You bitch," and then she turned around.
Selena stumbled into the lobby, bleeding to death from a severed artery. Police say the singer was found clutching the ring Yolanda had given her.
It's when the call came in that Selena had been in an accident to go to the emergency room.
And when you got there?
The doctor came in and told me that she was dead on arrival.
Word got out that Selena had been shot. Hundreds of fans gathered near the motel parking lot, witnessing a bizarre standoff between police SWAT teams and Yolanda sitting in a truck. For nearly 10 hours, she held a gun to her head, threatening to kill herself.
They rushed her and grabbed her. They rushed in the front of the white pickup, grabbed her. She's on the ground.
Finally, Saldivar surrendered and was placed under a suicide watch. She has since pleaded not guilty to murder. Her lawyer declined comment on both the murder charges and the allegations of financial misconduct.
When you heard Selena had been shot, what occurred to you?
I knew it was Yolanda. Instantly. She wanted to get back at Selena, and she figured, hey, I did all this for you. If I can't have you, no one else can, and she killed her.
Selena's memorial service resembled a state funeral. 8,000 white roses, her favorite, were placed near her casket.
I didn't think I was going to make it through that, I just wanted to wake her up. I could see her, like, when she'd be asleep, and she'd be like that. And she looked beautiful, even like that. She was always giving people the benefit of the doubt, and look what it got her.
No one really knows what dark impulses may have driven Selena's accused murderer. Ironically, in the end, Selena did achieve a kind of twisted crossover dream. Through headlines, Selena finally was famous with an American audience as the victim of an apparently obsessed fan.
This is Purdue University.
But the English album was released. We probably don't know what it is, but I don't want to get demonetized for playing just a sample of it. Now that we heard from the husband, the clothing line director, and the father, he's going to come back. And speaking of come back, when we come back, Yolanda Saldivar back in 1995 in her first ever exclusive interview. Deborah Roberts has her story when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Inside Story 30 years later. It's the story that caused an outrage in the Corpus Christi community. Selena Quintanilla 30 years ago died at the hands of the murderer by the name of Yolanda Saldivar. She killed Selena in a 10-hour standoff with the Corpus Christi Police Department. Now, after the murder, why did she kill Selena? Did she really kill Selena? Was there something going on like a little secret? Tonight, you be the judge. And for the very first times after the murder, you're going to hear her side of the story as she tells it like she is. One person knows for sure, and that is Yolanda Saldivar. Here's Deborah Roberts with more of our inside story.
35-year-old Yolanda Saldivar is beginning a life behind bars. 2 months ago, a jury found her guilty of first-degree murder of Mexican-American singing sensation Selena. She was given a light sentence, that's 30 years before a chance of parole. Saldivar will spend those years in a Texas women's prison under heavy guard, isolated from other inmates who may want revenge against her. She never testified during her trial, but Saldivar agreed to tell us her side of the story. We hope to make some sense of a killing that has wounded and bewildered Selena's family and fans.
It made me out to be a monster. And I just want to say, I did not kill Selena. It was an accident. And my conscience is clear.
Selena was only 23 when she died at the hands of Saldivar. She was a Grammy-winning, undisputed queen of Tejano music. A lively mix of European sounds and Mexican salsa that was rapidly crossing into the mainstream because of Selena's popularity. The spirited young singer began her career as a child, performing in the family band formed by her father, himself a singer in his youth. Selena's flashy style and powerful vocals lifted her family out of poverty. In the last year of her life, she was a millionaire who was on the verge of a crossover career. And Yolanda Saldivar thought so too. She sought out Selena in 1991 in the family's hometown of Corpus Christi, offering to form a fan club. Soon, she was always at the singer's side, even quitting her nursing job to work full-time for Selena and run her new boutique business.
She was like a cuddling bear, teddy bear, that she would allow you to love her. I told her that I loved her like a daughter. And she goes, you know, I give you that right. She would call me Mom on the phone.
She called you Mom?
Yeah, she said, hi Mom, how you doing?
Selena's parents questioned whether their daughter called Saldivar Mom, but says she was close to the family until early this year. That's when Abraham Quintanilla, Selena's father and business manager, says he discovered forged checks and other evidence that Saldivar was embezzling money from both the fan club and the boutiques. In March, both he and Selena confronted Saldivar.
My last words with her was that I was going to go to the police to see what we could do, to charge her with something. She was stealing money. And this triggered the woman.
That day, March 9th, he says Saldivar left town with Selena's business records. 4 days later, she bought a gun. On March 31st, Saldivar returned to Corpus Christi and asked Selena to meet her at the Days Inn motel. She told her to come alone. The two women argued, and suddenly there was a gunshot. An injured and hysterical Selena raced from the motel room to the lobby, where she collapsed.
And that shot caused Selena to bleed to death. As she was running toward the lobby, she just bled to death.
Prosecutor Carlos Valdez pieced together a motive.
The defendant had wrapped up her whole life around Selena Quintanilla Perez. Her whole world was walking out the door, and she wouldn't stand for it, so she shot her.
Let's keep her alive and enjoy her music.
The grief-stricken Mexican-American community mourned Selena as an idolized daughter or sister. Thousands turned out for a candlelight vigil, saying goodbye to a shining young role model who never forgot her roots. The one thing no one disputes is what ultimately happened here at the Days Inn in room 158. It was Yolanda Saldivar who fired the single gunshot that killed the young singer. But why the shooting happened is still the subject of intense speculation, weeks after the jury's conviction. The prosecution contends it was a case of cold-blooded murder committed by an obsessed fan out for revenge. But Saldivar insists it was all a tragic accident, a story she still stands by today. What happened that morning when Selena arrived? Did she say she wanted to fire you?
Never. She never told me that. I was telling her to leave. And I said, it's over, Selena. It's over. I can't work for you no more. I can't work for you no more. She went down. She grabbed my feet and told me not to leave her. And I picked her up and I told her, just leave. And I grabbed the gun, put it in my head. I pulled the thing back. And I said, if you don't leave, I'm going to do it, Selena. And she got up and she says, Mom, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this. I'm going to close the door. And when she was walking to the door, she was going at an angle. And I told her, don't close the door. And in that instant, the gun went off.
But why didn't it hit you?
Because I was pointing to the door, and it just went.
Did you know she was hit?
No, I did not know.
There was blood along the door seal.
I didn't even look at the door.
But there was blood all over the room. How could you not see it?
The pictures that I see, they're dots.
Saldivar left the blood-spattered room and headed to her car with the gun still in her hand. She said she was looking for Selena. The next 9 hours became a standoff with police. Saldivar sat in her car, gun to her head, negotiating into the night before finally giving herself up. Many people have wondered that if you were really trying to kill yourself, why didn't you commit suicide when you were in the car all those 9.5 hours?
There were many things going through my mind. I could hear her in my mind telling me, stay behind. Stay behind. I hear her tell me, you don't commit suicide because I'll never see you in heaven.
Jurors didn't believe Saldivar. It took them less than 3 hours to convict her. Prosecutor Valdez insists there was no evidence of an accidental shooting.
This was a simple case of cold-blooded murder. There was an intent involved, and she did exactly what she set out to do.
Despite all the evidence against her, Saldivar gives a strikingly different account of the shooting and the weeks that led up to it, contradicting witnesses and the Quintanilla family. Did you steal any money from Selena's business?
No, ma'am. Not ever.
Can you tell me if you were angry? Frustrated?
No, I was never angry. I was never frustrated.
Quintanilla, now living with the silence of his daughter's empty recording studio, says his documents prove that Saldivar embezzled more than $100,000 from Selena. He also says he was increasingly bothered by Saldivar's possessiveness toward his daughter.
And I did start noticing an obsession with Selena. In my opinion, she was living her life through Selena. Here you have a person that's nowhere in life. Right before she killed Selena, I found out that she was stalking Selena by phone.
There were allegations that you were in love with her.
And that's not true either. And if people think that Selena and I had a lesbian relationship, you're not a fan of Selena.
Why did you decide you needed a gun?
It was after threats had been made against my life.
Who threatened you?
Her father.
Abraham Quintanilla threatened you?
Yes.
Quintanilla insists he never threatened Saldivar. He's convinced that she bought the gun to kill Selena.
She saw me as the person who initiated this, and she saw me as the enemy. How much more could she hurt us than killing Selena?
Is there any way Selena or her family could have seen this kind of a death coming?
No.
No tips, no clues.
No.
Forensic psychologist Dr. Reed Malone, though he never examined Saldivar, we asked him to take a look at our interview with her for any hints of obsessive homicidal behavior. He says the strongest clue is that she brought a gun to the final meeting.
Why is there a loaded gun there when perhaps there's a job termination? And two, why does she put the gun to her head in order to end the relationship? Those two are strikingly abnormal and are usually absent in any kind of relationship ending.
Dr. Malloy says Saldivar appears to fit a pattern of an obsessive personality. We asked him about her claim that it was she who was ending the relationship instead of Selena.
I told her no, that it was over.
Now, Yolanda is describing here the exact opposite of what Selena's family
has described.
Yes, sometimes there's a reversal in these cases of roles. And what we may be seeing here is the person that's about to be abandoned, in order to understand it or justify it in her own mind, becomes the person in the position of doing the abandoning.
So her version turns everything around.
Exactly, the roles shift and the roles alter, and we have tragedy.
He was particularly struck by Saldivar's answer to our next question.
If you could go back and do something differently on that morning of March 31st, what would you do?
I would want her to kill me.
Dr. Malloy says that's an indication that Saldivar expected one of them to die that day.
Instead of her saying, I wish we were both safe and nothing had happened, instead she has to direct the aggression toward herself rather than Selena.
So you think that it appears that she was considering suicide here?
I think so. I think so. That's why these situations are extremely dangerous and unpredictable, because that homicidal impulse is shifting rapidly between the wish to kill the self and the wish to kill the other.
And there were just seconds there to determine who was going to die.
Perhaps even less than that.
Throughout our interview, Saldivar kept referring to a mysterious deep secret that she shares with Selena. She says they even talked about it on the day of the murder.
You talked about a secret, that you're protecting the secret.
That's true.
What secret?
I can't indulge that at this point because my case is in appeal. But I know that one day people will know.
Let's stop it there. Yeah, I don't know if there's a secret, but I do know that by her saying she has a secret, she maintains a special, exclusive relationship with Selena that nobody else has.
Even now?
Even now.
Yolanda, whether it was accidental or whether it was intentional, you were responsible for Selena's death. How do you live with that?
It was an accident. I'm dead inside. I have no feelings. I'm like a walking shell. Selena will always be a daughter for me. She will always be that gentle child I never had. And I thank her for it.
There's a link to Selena now that nobody can devalue nor remove. You know, through one act, she has now established a notoriety that will remain, and her name will be linked to Selena's memory. And that, for her, in a sense, reestablishes that special fantasy.
Deborah, Yolanda Saldivar is in prison for 30 years without parole, right?
Right.
But she said that she wants her case to come up for appeal. Is that going to happen?
Well, her lawyers are trying for an appeal. They're also trying for a new trial. They have a hearing scheduled this month at which they'll argue that parts of the trial were handled improperly, and they'll also argue that police ignored her comments that the shooting was an accident and that they deliberately left it out of her confession. But they're arguing this before the same judge who heard the trial, so many are skeptical about whether it will work.
Selena was only 23 and on the verge of becoming a megastar.
And the thing that's so heartbreaking for her father is that he will never know how well she could have done. Ironically, her last album that she recorded before her death sold 3 million copies.
And now she's a legend.
She is.
Tragic, all around tragic. Thank you, Deborah.
Okay. Now, what if there was a lie detector test? Here's how it would be. It'd be like an episode of the Steve Wilkos show. The Quinceañera would be the guest, and Yolanda Saldivar would also be the guest. You know, questions would arise like, you know, do you see her stealing money? Like, you know, this, then, the third, yes. And then we move on to the next question for the victims here, and then we skip to the part of the lie detector test. And these were the same questions. I mean, Steve would ask, Donna, if this comes back that you in fact did not kill Selena, would this help your relationship with the Quinceañeras? And then these would be the questions from that lie detector test. this. Yolanda actually be the victim's first taking a lie detector test. It'd be Abraham Quintanilla. Abraham came in and took a lie detector test. And it'd be one question. Abraham, did you ever threaten Yolanda Saldivar before the shooting on March 1st, 1995? You answered no. Are you lying about the checks that are being stolen by Saldivar? You answered no. And the results for both those questions indicate non-deception, that Abraham Quintanilla told the truth. Next would be Saldivar's test. We asked her, did you ever threaten Abraham Quintanilla on the month before the shooting on March 31st, 1995? You answered no. In March 31st, 1995, were you responsible for the shooting of Selena Quintanilla? You answered no. Did you steal money from the fan club before the failed shooting murder on March 31st, 1995? You answered no. Do you believe Abraham Quintanilla threatened you before? You answered yes. You answered yes. Did you buy a gun as a way to intentionally kill Selena? You answered no. On the day of March 31st, 1995, did you kill Selena Quintanilla? You answered no, and the results for all those questions would come back the same, and it came back deceptive. That means she did not tell the truth. This evidence would be put into play, taken to the prosecutor, and she would spend the rest of her life in jail. That's what would happen if that lie detector test was with a lie detector test. Now, she says that she still insisted it was an accident. The jury says she killed him. She killed her. Whether you believe it was an accident or not, if you believe it was an accident, then you believe it was an accident. Ain't gonna get into all he said, she said. It's not gonna get into the whole he said, she said bullshit, you know? Selena turns 20. The family reflects on what happened. It's all over the news. It was all over the news. You look over the news, and the parole was denied. You know, here's the thing, though. Can you imagine where I would be if I was in Yolanda Saldivar's shoes? If I was in Saldivar's shoes, what I would do if I was in Saldivar's shoes, I would immediately not take money from the fan club, not buy a gun, apologize to the Quintanillas and say, hey, we were on the wrong path here. I didn't mean to steal money from you. I'm very sorry. If that had changed, it would have been forgiven. But there was probably no forgiveness. All that there was, a gun, stolen money, and parole denied. So now we heard from this. So now that we heard from the husband.
Well, she was a performer.
We heard from the husband. We heard from the father, the clothing director, the hotel manager, and the killer herself. When we come back, the evidence that has been put into play, all the evidence has been put into play here. We'll talk about that when we come back. Welcome back to the inside story 30 years later of Selena Quintanilla. You may remember that back in 2019, we focused in on the evidence that was put into play at that trial. Tonight, you're going to see an exclusive look of the evidence from years ago. And you'll also get to meet the prosecutor who prosecuted Yolanda Saldivar. But was it enough for a new trial? Was all the evidence that you saw, was it enough to get a brand new trial? Is there now new evidence? If she was still trying to say, I'm trying to get an appeal, I have new evidence. Or is it just a ploy? Here's Rudy Trevino.
Rudy, here's the actual physical evidence.
For the first time in 23 years, Carlos Valdez, now a district court judge, showed us the contents of the more than 16 boxes of evidence.
Bullets and ammunition.
All sorts of evidence, from transcripts to affidavits, stacks of files, even Yolanda Saldivar's purse and briefcase.
A bunch of correspondence and files.
Saldivar's infamous cell phone is part of the cache of evidence. But in paperwork demanding a new trial filed in March, there is one item the 58-year-old convicted murderer claims was not admitted into evidence during her trial, claiming the prosecution hid it from her defense team. The evidence, which has been kept in this brown paper bag, contains the tennis shoes Selena was wearing the day she was shot. In her writ of habeas corpus, Saldivar claims nowhere in the state's exhibit index was a pair of white high-top Reebok tennis shoes listed. But Carlos Valdez quickly dispelled that by showing us this one critical detail.
This says DT. August 15th of 1995. What that means is that Doug Tinker opened this and looked at the evidence that was in here.
And Mr. Tinker was the chief defense attorney for Yolanda Saldivar, so he had access to it. He had access to the evidence. He had access to the tennis shoes. Nobody was hiding them. They've been with the clerk the whole time.
Saldivar claims after 23 years, Valdez presented the evidence to the public in a Spanish media interview. In her writ, Saldivar says the jury, not the defense or the prosecutor, is the trier of fact of all relevant material evidence, and they alone should and did determine between conviction and acquittal, but not all the evidence was presented. Saldivar claims the shooting was accidental, but Valdez shuts that argument down quickly.
Actually, we have a writing confession from Yolanda Saldivar signed by herself saying that she did kill Selena. I guess now she's trying to say that the tennis shoes, I don't know in what way, but in some way, prove that she's lying.
Saldivar is up for parole in a little over 5 years. Valdez says instead of filing motions for new trials, she should be focusing on something else.
She should be thinking about expressing remorse, admitting that she was wrong, and telling people, trying to convince people that the time in prison has changed her for the better.
Yolanda Saldivar's request for a new trial was dismissed without written order by the Court of Criminal Appeals on the 24th of July. I spoke with Selena's family about our report. They say that they hope Saldivar will someday be remorseful. Joe?
And you did speak with the family. What else did they have to say?
I spoke with Mr. Quintanilla, who said that, you know, this is such a waste of time, and every time that a writ or some sort of an appeal is filed, it's like opening up an old wound. Not allowing them to
sure. As for the tennis shoes, of course, we blurred out part of the shoes that showed the blood still on the shoes. Any idea what the shoes might have done in terms of supporting her argument that it was an accident?
There was nothing there to support that, according to Carlos Valdez, the prosecutor. He says there was no indication. Those shoes were worn by Selena. There was no blood underneath them. The blood was on them, showing that she was bleeding out as she ran away to get away from the person who did this to her.
Yeah. All right, Rudy, thanks very much. More tonight at 10 o'clock.
And now here's another one. Another piece of evidence. The blood. Not from the shoes, but giving the
Amber
blood.
is proven to relieve
According
12
to the
menopause
father.
symptoms. Get complete relief with Amberin.
In tonight's final segment of the Abraham Quintanilla memoir, A Father's Dream, we get a closer look into the struggles the father of the...
We're going to have more about this coming up on Wednesday. We're going to have that for you tomorrow, but... You know, I have a lot to say to get to Saldivar. We're going to take a break and come back with that. Stay with us. It's like I said, she took a lie detector test, claiming that she insists the shooting was an accident. It's like, I didn't do that. I did not kill Selena. Okay, well, let me read this to you again. On March 31st of 1995, did you kill Selena Quintanilla? Did you kill Selena Quintanilla? And you said no. And you did not tell the truth. I would go all Steve Wilkos on her ass going, You, a legendary misjudgment, trying to bang of you, and you killed her. I only hope that you get life in prison. Get the fuck off my stage. You killed her. You signed an affidavit saying you killed her. You told Deborah Roberts. You even told the judge that, oh, it was an accident. There was no accident. You bought the gun. You ended the relationship. There was no accident here. There was blood on the shoes. You didn't even know about the blood on the shoes. They forgot about that because they didn't want to hear your sorry ass. They didn't want to hear your fucking sorry ass, ma'am. If it was all about ending the relationship, then you should have ended it properly, not buying a gun. You're saying you got a problem with Quintanilla. Well, hell yeah, you had a problem with him. You say he threatened you, and he's saying he didn't threaten you. So who's telling the truth and who's lying? I believe Abraham Quintanilla told the truth. I believe him because he's like, oh, I never threatened her. Well, you're damn straight. Well, he's damn right he didn't threaten her because here's what happened here, you know. I hope you stay in. Hope she stays in jail. That's all I hope. You can sit there, request for a new trial, and say, please, Mr. Attorney, please, I request a new trial, please. I insist this shooting was an accident. I did not kill him, Miss Selena. I did not kill him, Miss Selena. Request for a new trial. You just sold out the Quintanilla family to drag their ass out of court. It'd be like this. Hey, Mom, Dad, can we go to McDonald's? Do you got McDonald's money? Or even better. Grandma, I think we should take 2 cars. Hey, Milo, take 2 cars. But jingle, Milo, jingle, let's take 2 cars. Then don't go. Then don't go. You killed her. I mean, I'm like Steve Wilkos here. You beat her. You beat her. How dare you? It'd be like this. I would come up to her face and say, you shot her. I did not. You shot her. You signed the affidavit. You signed the paperwork saying you shot her. You confessed to the police you did. You're saying you didn't kill her, it was an accident. You killed her. How dare you? You killed her. You killed Selena. You killed the legendary superstar. You sat in that car for hours. You read an affidavit. The prosecutor didn't want to even hear the evidence about the shoes. You killed her. You bought the gun. You killed her. You killed her. You killed her. And now her father is mourning, and they're angry at you. You killed her. You didn't point the gun at yourself. You didn't go at the angle. You were responsible for the killing. You're not an obsessed fan. You are a murderer. You're just a murderer. You're just a superstar killer who kills superstars and without getting blood on your hands. And yet all you want to do is just not care. You see pictures of dots? Well, you're about to see a picture lying in jail with an 8x10 cell. Because all you care about is just, not knowing about the death of Selena. All you say was, oh, it was an accident. Joey's like, selling out the jury. He's like, I'm not telling you to believe I didn't kill Selena. I just want y'all to believe it was an accident. There was no accident. You killed her. You killed her. She went endless shipping and you tried to just kill her with a gun. You did. The shoes, I was playing about the shoes, and you sat there and say, well, I don't care. But, but the thing is here, if you go back in time, here's the answer to the question. What would you do back in time? Apologize. Not only to the Quintanilla family, but to Selena, and give back the checks and say, hey, if I'm gonna create the fan club, I'm gonna do it right. By giving back the checks. And just going to the police and figure out what we can do. Because there are solutions that we can do to prevent stuff like this from happening again. And believe me, if I was in Selena's shoes, I would not be in her shoes. But if I was in Saldivar's shoes, I would apologize saying, hey, Mr. Perez, Mr. Quintanilla, I'm sorry. I am really sorry that I stole money from you. I am sorry that all this mess had happened. But I just want you to know that's not who I am. I want you to know that it was my decision, my stupid decision that it's decided to do this, and I am willing to face the consequences of my actions. If he had believed her, he'd be like, you know what, don't worry about it. Or if he'd be like, we don't care. We're going to take it to the police anyway. Now, if you had thought that our inside story was over, and you're scratching your head going, is there more? Damn straight. Tomorrow, more of the inside story of Selena, including the interview with the father, along with never before seen pictures of Selena with Chris Perez, and for the very first time after all these years, we'll get to hear from the former prosecutor Chris Valdez, who prosecuted Saldivar back in 1995. You'll get to hear his reaction all about the killing, all about the decline of the parole. We'll also get to look at Abraham's father. The moral. And we'll get to look at a movie screening. And we'll also get to hear how can Saldivar file so many writs and appeals. And there was probably talk of a new Selena series. And then we'll also get to look at Selena's family who threatened a lawsuit. Then from back 5 years ago, new kids on the block performer tribute to Selena. All of that's coming up tomorrow. Or maybe on a second look Saturday. Depending on one of the two. It could be tomorrow, it could be a Give Me Back Tuesday, or it could be a second look Saturday, depending on one of the two. It all depends how, we look upon it. It could be Tuesday morning, it could be, or Tuesday night, or it could be a Give Me Back Saturday. We probably won't know. Now, I'm going to go with tonight's viral break. Tonight's viral break has got to do with the fact. Here is April Fool's is coming up, and that's going to lead us to tonight's viral break of the angry sink prank. And there's like a bunch of videos all that did the sink prank. This was from Stuntman89, Jason. His uncensored collection of the sink prank from years ago.
Attention, this video contains extreme language and inappropriate behavior.
You son of a bitch! I'll beat your motherfucking head off, you son of a bitch! You stupid bastard! You goddamn son of a bitch! What about all the fucking water in the goddamn floor? You give me the fucking tape out that damn camera, I'm gonna take it and throw it through the damn wall. You stupid bastard. You better give me the tape out of it, and I'm gonna tear it up. God damn you! You stupid son of a bitch! Fuck you!
Beach.
You ain't turning nothing off. Hell with you. That son of a bitch is gone. That's mine now. How are you doing that shit to me?
1 year later.
Look at the shit in the mess you just made.
April Fools.
Clean it up.
And there's probably more there's probably more of the sink pranks. Like this one.
So you already ate?
Yeah, I'm just finishing up. What? What the hell you want to know for?
What did you eat?
It's none of your fucking business. Goddamn motherfucker, you stupid son of a bitch! Goddamn motherfucker, get your ass. I see that motherfucking camera. Stupid motherfucker. Where the fuck are you at, you dumb motherfucker? Look, you're around here some fucking where. Stupid ass shit.
What happened? Oh. What are you doing? What are you doing? Look at this. What? What happened? Oh shit. What you doing? You my back. Look.